Greetings YouTube and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm taking a look at the Harley-Davidson Pan America Special, and it seems quite special indeed. Intention here today isn't to give like an in-depth full review of this bike. It's been out a while. There's lots of those already on YouTube and the internet. What I wanted to do today is just give you my thoughts on it. Now, I'm a Harley-Davidson rider. I was going to say an ex-Harley-Davidson rider, but maybe I'm still a Harley-Davidson rider, I don't know. I've had 8 over the last 20 years or so, and that ranges from Sportsters through to Road Kings through to an old electrical Glide that I had. And the problem I used to have with the Harleys was all that chrome, and I'd tuck it away in my garage over winter, and then 4 or 5 months later it would come out again. And I like to ride all year round, as you know, and when Harley came out with an adventure bike, I thought this could be it, this could be the one. But I am a BMW GS rider as well, so I thought I'd take a look and see if this was ticking all my boxes. So let's just take a little walk around. So, whilst this is still a V-twin, as you'd expect from Harley-Davidson, this is the new Revolution Max engine, which puts out 150 brake horsepower. It's actually 1252cc, and it puts out 128 newton meters of torque at 6,750 RPM. So for me, the biggest bugbear with this bike is the look of it from the front end. It's out there. It looks a bit like something from a Judge Dredd. It looks like something from a Judge Dredd movie, or maybe RoboCop or something. I kind of feel it should have had a round headlight. So as much of an acquired taste as that headlight is, this is the clever one. When you turn your handlebars to the left, the light will go to the left, which I would imagine is really useful on trails. I've never needed it on the road in all the bikes I've had over the years. I can always see around corners, but maybe on a dark trail that's going to help you see where you need to go. So this bike, it looks black to me, but when I catch it in certain light, it's got a kind of plum look to it almost. It's very nice. All the fit and finish is of a typically high standard, as you would expect from Harley-Davidson. This has soft luggage on it. It also is available with all the aluminium panniers that you'd expect to see on an adventure bike. So the switchgear feels nice and positive. It doesn't feel cheap. I don't think it's backlit. I could be wrong about that. I can't see any lights or anything. We've got, in an un-Harley-like way, we've got indicators on one single side. That's very traditional. Usually with Harleys you get a left turn on that side and a right turn on this side. You soon get used to whatever method you're using. And then of course we have the big screen with the infotainment up the front. So that all looks very impressive. I like that. So up on the handlebars here you have a mode button. If you press that, it will cycle through various modes. That's on road at the moment, and then you have other modes like off-road, gravel, rain, etc. All the kind of things you would expect to see. Got your fuel reading up here, obviously rev counter, mileometer. This bike's only got 18 miles on the clock. Very nice. So the screen's nice and easy to adjust. You just pull this button in here and then you can push it up or down and that will alter the height. Nice and straightforward. I don't think I'd want to be doing it on the move though. Unlike any other Harley-Davidson I've ever owned, this is chain driven. I've always had ones with belts. I know the older ones had chains. And also this is water cooled with the new Revolution Max engine. Bike has all the crash bars etc you'd expect to see on an adventure bike, and if you ever do ride this off-road you're inevitably going to be picking it up. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. I've picked up my BMW countless times. The crash bars do their job. They stop the paintwork from getting damaged and more importantly stop bits of engine getting damaged. Right, let's switch this beast on then and see what it sounds like. Turn it on, just press and hold this down here. That has a very untypical but typical Harley burble to it. It's a louder exhaust than my GS. It has a kind of agricultural sound to it, I think. See what it's like when I flip the throttle. Let's come round here and hear it up close. So this particular bike has spoked wheels on it, which is a good sign if you're going to take it off-road. The cast alloy wheels, which you often see on adventure bikes, are more of like a soft roading option rather than an off-roading option because they're more likely to crack or split under hard impacts. Having said that, I wonder how many people are actually going to take this seriously off-road. It's so expensive, just shy of £19,000 as a starting entry level. It's a lot of money to be dropping on the trail. Up front we've got a 19-inch wheel. Again, that's not a huge kind of nod towards off-road. 21-inch would be more of an off-road kind of thing like the Africa Twin, etc. But to be fair, the GS, which is known for taking people all over the road over the roughest of terrains, has a 19-inch wheel up front and there is a 17-inch wheel at the back. So one thing that is very innovative here with Harley-Davidson, and I'm surprised other manufacturers haven't done it, is they've created something called adaptive seat height. And this is quite a tall bike. It's 850mm in its lowest setting and then 875mm once you're up and running. And what happens is when you pull up at traffic lights or you stop or whatever, the seat lowers down so that you can get both feet better on the ground. I'm still at 5'10". I'm still on tiptoes, to be honest, when the suspension is down in its lowest setting while stationary, and when you pull away it rises up. So it's a tall bike. So as I said, this was never planned to be like a full-on in-depth review. I'm not knowledgeable enough for that. All I can give you is my kind of opinion as a consumer and a rider, a user. So I guess the best thing to do is go for a ride and have a little chat whilst I'm riding and give you my impressions. Okay, so we're going to take it for a spin and see what we think. Now, as I said, for me it's quite a tall bike, so just getting off the side stand is a little bit of an issue. Let's fire it up. Right, we'll take it out of rain mode. It's a reasonably warm day today in Oxfordshire. It'd be nicer if the sun was shining, but I would take a day like this over a rainy day any day. So the bike feels quite top heavy to me as I'm riding it. I think it's carrying quite a bit of weight high up, the tank's quite high. I feel very upright on it. It's a comfortable sitting position. My legs are bent at a nice angle. As I said, I'm 5'10". I don't feel squashed. Doesn't feel too big now I'm moving. I have to admit that when it's stationary, even with the seat lowered down in its lowest position, it feels quite high to me. It feels nice and stable and responsive. I mean, to be honest, the steering feels quite similar to the GS. I guess that's probably the 19-inch wheel contributing to that slightly. I don't know how much of this you're going to hear because it feels quite loud here, like there's a lot of engine noise. Whether that would get a bit tiring over a long journey or not, I don't know. I mean, having said that, I used to ride around on old air-cooled Harleys with Screaming Eagle exhausts, and they were loud. Right, we're just in a road setting at the moment, and obviously all of these settings are completely tweakable if you get into it, which I'm not going to get into it because I just don't know my way around the bike well enough. But to me the suspension feels quite firm in the road setting, or the standard default road setting. Certainly comparing it to the GS, which is my main point of comparison, it's a lot firmer and I'm feeling bumps in the road a lot more. I think the GS benefits from that cantilever suspension up front. Get away from the traffic in a moment and see how it feels on the open road. It's a comfortable place to be sat. The seat feels firm but not too firm. The mirrors, when I glance in them, aren't vibrating. Certainly not like my old air-cooled Harleys used to. Not feeling any vibration, particularly through the handlebars, which was an issue when I had an old Yamaha XT660 10RA. I used to come away from rides with my fingers tingling. That was another bike that I felt was really high. That didn't have the adaptive seat height gizmo going on, and I would sometimes be kind of hanging off that bike with toes down on one side and the other foot dangling in the air. But like this is nice. It feels very different to the GS. It still feels like a premium machine because obviously it is. Harley-Davidson aren't going to make anything cheap and nasty. But it feels a bit more agricultural, which is probably a predictable thing to say. Doesn't feel quite as refined as my GS, but it doesn't feel cheap and nasty. It feels like a quality machine. certainly much narrower than what I'm used to. Having a GSA, my knees are quite far apart because of the huge tank. This feels quite narrow, not like old dual sport narrow, but fairly narrow. I'm going to find somewhere to turn around and then retrace my steps, I think. Slowly getting used to this switch gear. Now I'm waiting for the seat to drop down a little bit just to make life a bit easier for me. Certainly feel that torque. It accelerates nice and fast. I'm not giving you facts and figures here simply because I just want to give an impression. You know, I'm not the most technically minded person, but what interests me is how it feels and how a bike feels and whether I feel I could live with it on a day-to-day basis. I think I could certainly live with this. I would get used to it very quickly. It feels like there's bags of power. 150 brake horsepower, that's more than you're ever going to need on the trail, and it's plenty for touring. I would imagine 2-up, this is absolutely perfect for the job. So the gearbox is nice and positive. Just changed down through the box and it had a reassuring clunk to it, but not like a super agricultural clunk like you might get on an old Evo or Panhead or something. I mean, to be honest, it's a completely different type of engine, isn't it? But it still has the character of a Harley-Davidson, which I like. I mean, this is something for me that was a box I wanted to tick. I have this affiliation with Harley-Davidson, this kind of fealty to the brand, to the motor company. There's a nice 911, oh yes. And I want to ride an adventure bike, and I want to ride all year round, so this should be ticking every box. And it probably would, to be fair. I've got a sneaky feeling at the tail end of a 13-hour ride through horrendous wind and rain, I would be more tired on this than I was on the GS. Coming back from France, it was pretty horrendous. Going down to France, it was pretty horrendous just recently. And I think this would have been a bit more fatiguing. I think it feels lighter than what I'm used to. Certainly feels quite nimble and responsive. And generally I think it looks good. It's just that front end that I struggle with, but I'm sure I'd get used to it. I mean, I like my Land Rovers, and I remember when the new Defender came out, I looked at it and thought, no, I like the classics. Give me a classic Defender. They stopped making those in 2016. And now there's a new Defender on my wish list. You know, I've grown to really like that, and I would grow to really like this if it was in my garage. Right, I'm going to head back to the dealership, which is Blade Motorcycles, Oxford Harley-Davidson, who very kindly loaned me this bike for a test ride today. Lots of torque, low down. As you would expect from a Harley. The display's nice and clear, which is good for somebody such as myself. I struggle to see things that are too close, and need to wear glasses if it's too close to me, but I can clearly see the speed, I can see how many revs I'm doing, I can see the petrol gauge. it's all good. So there's a little bit of wind today, and I can feel it trying to move the bike around from side to side. Nothing too drastic, but it's quite a tall machine, so it's a bit like a sail. When I pull on the front brake, the front end dips down a little bit. That's something that I'm not used to. It doesn't tend to do that on the GS so much, but it's nothing too drastic, nothing I wouldn't get used to. It's a nice bike. It comes with Michelin tyres on it, which are made specifically for Harley-Davidson. They look fairly standard, kind of probably 60-40, 70-30 adventure tyres, road biased, but with a little nod towards a gravel road. As I just have this out on loan, I'm not going to take it anywhere near any dirt at all. I don't want to go dropping it. What I'll do, if I can, I'll park up alongside my GS when I get back to the dealership. Just take a moment to reflect. As long as you're trickling along, it's lovely and stable. I don't feel like I want to wobble off to either side, which is good news, because until I stop, the seat doesn't drop down a little bit. It's only subtle, but it just makes a bit of a difference. And it's quite high. So I think, to summarise, I think Harley-Davidson have probably made a very, very capable off-road machine, on-road off-road machine, an adventure bike. I know some people would say, oh, it's not going to cut it like a middleweight KTM or something, but in reality most people don't ride their bikes like that. I certainly don't. I don't have the skills to. Within the parameters of how I could ride this would do absolutely everything I would ever ask of it, and more. And you can't really ask more than that. It would get me many, many miles across motorways, crossing continents, and then if I wanted to explore somewhere a little bit more off the beaten track, the bike would be willing and able. It would be the rider would be the limitation, it would be me. Right, we're getting back to the dealership, so I'm going to tuck the bike in next to my bike, and I've enjoyed taking this out. It's been good. There's my old girl. I found neutral easily enough. Not used to where the side stand is. The side stand, like all Harleys, doesn't feel like it goes out enough. And then you worry that it's going to fall over when you get off the bike. But no, that was nice. So you find me having a coffee again, but it's a good place to sum up my thoughts about the Harley-Davidson Pan America. Now, I think it's a perfectly capable bike. I was really impressed with it. I think it's well made. I think it would do exactly what you ask of it. I can only compare it with what I know, and I know BMW, their adventure bikes, and I know Yamaha's adventure bikes, and back in the day things like old Suzuki DR600s and Honda XL250s I used to buzz around on. And so I would compare with the current ride I have, which is the BMW GSA 1200, and I think a good comparison is like a German car against an American car. The BMW feels more refined. The American bike has oodles of character, and it does what you would expect it to do. So, from a layman's perspective, they're my thoughts, really. The whole aim of this video is to present a bike to you from a user's perspective, not from a journalist's perspective or somebody who is like completely technically adept. I'm not. I just know what it feels like to ride and aesthetically what I think, and I hope that's of some interest to you. If you did like that, let me know in the comments, and if you want me to test ride any other bikes, I'll be very happy to do so. I intend to take a Royal Enfield Himalayan out very soon, and I also fancy taking out a Yamaha T7, an Africa Twin, Adventure Sports, and even the BSA Gold Star. I think I'd quite like to take out the new Indian one. So if any of those are of your interest, let me know. And if you did like today's video, please give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.